Today we're going to talk about Sheriff of Nottingham. Sheriff of Nottingham is a pretty easy to play bluffing game where you can sit down with as many as 5 players and play probably within 35-40 minutes. And the goal of the game is to get as much gold at the end of the game. And you either do that by smuggling contraband into Nottingham or by trading your goods and getting them in. Or, basically it's a bluffing game, so the goal is to trick the sheriff. That's the basic premise of the game. And we're going to go and we're going to do our demo, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to give you my thoughts on the game. Okay, this is Sheriff of Nottingham. This is going to be a quick and dirty demo. This is not going to really catch the true flavor of the game. What it's going to catch is the game mechanics, so that you can get a better understanding of what the game is not so much about, because it's really about bluffing, lying, not so much cheating, but I guess it is cheating because you're cheating your way into the town, but not cheating in the breaking the rules sense of the game. Part of the rules are to lie. So, and basically, you've got your pouches. We're going to set it up as if it's a 3-player game. You need a sheriff for that. And then each player gets a card. I'm going to set the cards off to the side as much as I can. I don't have a ton of space. We're going to zoom out just a hair maybe. And for sake of this demo, these are the sheriff cards. There's too much light over there. We're just going to put the sheriff on whoever's player's turn it is. And we're basically just going to do one round, if even that, because the rounds are very repetitious. And the way you set up the game is each player gets 50 gold to start off the game with. I might not have counted out the full 50 because we're not going to need it unless we really, unless I have fun playing the game alone. And then you take the deck and go 1, and you deal out 6. And then, in a centralized location, you flip over 5 cards for the discard pile. And then there's a second discard pile. You do the same thing. And these are a lot of contraband. So, at this point, understanding what you're supposed to do with the game is probably pretty important. The object of the game is to score the most points. There's contraband, which are any of these cards that are in red. And then there's also a little recommendation thing down on the side for what, number of players it's recommended for. But we're just going to go ahead and play with the deck as is, so I don't have to tear it apart. This number is the value of the card at the end of the game for scoring. And this number is the number of gold the player smuggling in the items would have to pay if they lied about what's in their bag. And the goal is to score as many points as you possibly can at the end of the game, which I may have said. The non-contraband items are bread, cheese, which, well, we'll get into the reading of the card in a minute, chicken, and apples, which are apples. Reading this card, these numbers are the prize awards at the end of the game in points for having the most cheese or having the second most cheese, and so on, right around the card all the way through. So it appears that apples are one of the most valuable commodities in the game. So even though it's the sheriff who is first, I'm going to look at his hand to give you an idea of what these different hands can be like. And we're just going to go ahead, and he has 2 contraband, 2 chickens, But he's not really going to do anything with it this turn because he's the sheriff. So he doesn't get to smuggle anything. So the other two players, who has, the green player has silk, pepper, 2 apples, and 2 chicken. So this player has that in their hand, and we're going to play these. We're going to play these both a different way, just so you can see. Wow, this player's got 2 apples and 2 chicken as well, along with 1 bread and olive oil. So what we're going to do is we're going to have this player discard 2 contraband on this pile. He's then going to decide he wants to draw the chicken, and then he draws a card from the top, which is another apple. Now you can never try and smuggle more than 4 cards in at a time. So in this case, it's a pretty safe bet if he smuggles 3 apples in, put them in the bag, that he's not going to get caught, and if he does get caught, the sheriff owes him money. This player has the option to do the same thing, and technically so does the sheriff, but oh wow, that's actually pretty strategic now that I think about it. He has the ability to smuggle in 2 apples or 2 chicken with olive oil, and he's going to discard the bread and draw, well, he draws another bread. So what he's going to do is he's going to decide, since apples are one of the more valuable ones, he's going to try and smuggle in the olive oil. And those go in his blue bag. And then we move to the phase where everybody gives the sheriff their bag and declares what's in their bags. Green player actually says 3 apples. And you have to declare the number of cards has to be true. You cannot lie about the number of cards. You can lie about what the cards represent, but you have to say there are X cards, and those X cards are one of something. So, for example, we all know that there's 3 apples in this bag. He could say that there's 3 chickens if he wanted to lie about it. He couldn't say there's 2 chickens because there's 3 cards in the bag. He couldn't say there's 2 apples because there's 3 cards in the bag. You have to declare whatever the number is plus whatever item you wish to declare. I suppose if you wanted, you could declare contraband. What an idea. Anyway, we will move on. So he declares 3 apples, and he declares 3 apples. And being the sheriff's just going to go ahead and say, well, the blue player, I didn't like the way the blue player went about declaring it, so he's going to check his bag. Now, the blue player has 2 apples in there and the contraband. Because of this, he has to pay the sheriff 5 gold. And the olive oil is confiscated, and he gets to put that on a discard pile. He's going to put it on the one with some good goods on it. These go here for him. He gets to keep those. And he's like, well, you know, he smuggled in apples. I think you smuggled in apples. So, he has 3 apples. That makes the sheriff a false accuser. And the sheriff must pay the penalty, which in this case is a total of 6 to that player. And these would go there. Now, all players would draw back up to 6 cards. And the sheriff would then pass 1 player over. Now, just to be curious, you can look at this. Oh, look at this. Nice contraband. These are the golden apples, and they count as 3 apples at the end of the game. So he's going to want to smuggle those in. But look at this, he's also got 4 chickens. So if and when it comes back around to him, he could have a lot of fun. But now, the green player is the sheriff, so we have a bread, 3 chickens. Oh, this one is really nice. We're going to have to zoom in on this so you can see it. This is actually really fun. I've actually used this 3 times before in the same game. This is a royal summons, and if inspected and telling the truth, except for this card, the sheriff must pay you an 8 extra gold. So he's definitely going to use that this turn. In fact, he's going to go ahead and discard both of these cards like that and draw up 2, hoping, well, he didn't get it, but he was hoping for a couple more roosters. Now, the sheriff has 2 chickens, cheese, and some silk. So he's going to discard silk, a chicken, and hopefully he's got the sheriff looking over there, and he's going to grab the extra crossbow. So he does that. Now they put their cards in the blue bags or their bags, which I'm actually not going to do. I'm going to skip that part, and they're just going to go right to the smuggling phase, and they give their cards to, or they give their pouches to the sheriff. And then they declare. So he declares 4 roosters or 4 chicken, and the sheriff's like, you know, that's a probably no. We're going to do this backwards. Well, no, he declares 4 chicken, which is actually where we're at, and he declares 4 chicken as well. And if you look on here, chickens are worth 4 points, or they have a penalty of 2. So the sheriff is like, well, you inspected my bag last turn, so I think that maybe you're not telling me the truth. So he goes, well, you know, here's 2 gold. That's what it's worth to me if you don't check my bag. The sheriff's got some options there. He can just say, okay, is this guy lying to me? Is he trying to make a fast one on me or not? So he's like, okay, go ahead and get through. So we're going to just say that, for sake of argument, there wasn't a lot of arguing or finagling here in the situation, and he gets the 2 chickens to come through and 2 contraband. The contraband go face down in that corner. And then the other player is like, well, I have 4 chickens, and the guy's like, you know, he just smuggled chickens in, so you can't be having that many chickens right now. So he inspects his bag. So because of this card, which is contraband, and it gets discarded, that sheriff has to pay the blue player 2, 4, 6 plus 8 for a total of 14 gold. So there's 10, 15, and he'll throw him 1 back. Now that would pretty much end that phase, that turn. And the players would draw back up to 6 cards. And the sheriff would pass to the blue player. The red player has 4 roosters and a mead. He decides he's not going to do anything with his hand. The sheriff has new cards, and they're mostly apples. he doesn't really get to do anything. The red player has picked up some apples, 3 apples, and pepper. Now, here's something cool. We're going to go ahead and he's going to go ahead and go first. He's going to go down here. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's too far. See those pepper? If he had one more card to discard, he could have tried grabbing those pepper for smuggling them in. But he's going to do this. He's going to go 1, 2, because he's discarding these 3 cards on this pile, and he's going to take 1 off the top, and it's another apple. So now everybody knows that he's got this card, which is pretty coy. The green player has those 2 roosters. He's just going to say that he's got 2 apples coming through. The red player has 3 apples, 4 apples, and that's actually what he's going to declare. Why? Because odds are he'll get through, because, well, if I was the blue player, I wouldn't inspect him. So the green player, with only 2, with such a low number, it's probably the guy's telling the truth. He could bribe his way through or not. You get the idea. Let's say he doesn't get bribed, he gets smuggled. Now, let's say we went all the way through. Okay, that was 1 turn. It comes back to the red player. That's the start of another turn. A game lasts until the sheriff has gone around the table and returns to the first player the 4th time. So when the last player passes it for their 3rd time, that ends the game. And you would score. In this game, the green player has 3 apples, some contraband, and apples that count as giving him a bonus. So he clearly has the most apples in the game. This player has not the most, he has the most chicken, but he's got the most gold. And basically the way you score is you go with 1 player, we'll just go with 1 player, you count up all their gold, you add it up, and then you figure out whether or not they have the most apples, or in this case the most chicken on the board. And if they do have either of those bonuses, you add those into your gold. If you're second, so he's with 4 apples, he's second, he would have 10 extra points. He's pushing 40, 50, 60 some points at this point. Plus then, on top of that, you add up all the values of the gold that you have in your stand. So he has 18 there, 20, 2, 4, 6, 30, 34, plus the gold from the beginning of the game that he didn't have to spend, plus another 10 points. And that is pretty much how you play the game. And a little, in a little bit I'll be coming back and I'll give you my thoughts on the game. And then hopefully in a week or 2 you'll get a group playthrough so you can see the more dynamic aspect of the game. Because just showing you the game mechanics doesn't really do this game justice. And I'll talk more about that in depth here in a minute. Thanks for watching and have a good day. So, Sheriff of Nottingham is one of those games that is a social media / tension game, but it largely requires you to be able to bluff. I've said it before. This is one of those games where you can honestly lie, and what I mean by honestly lying is you can tell the truth and get away with certain things within the game. Like, for example, let's say I put 5 apples in my bag. Pretty unbelievable, right? So you say 5 apples. And then the sheriff's like, well, I'm going to open your bag. You could be like, well, I'm going to bribe you with X. Now, that X could be just enough to make them think that it's not worth opening the bag. Or it could be just under enough, or nowhere near enough, to make them think that, well, he's obviously telling the truth, or, you know, and you play the game that way. And that's what makes it great, because it really does rely a lot on social interaction, body language, the things that are actually good skills to learn before anybody, you know, they can be applied to anything. But when those skills are used in gaming, games are always elevated. Now, does the game fail anywhere? I would say it can. If you're playing with a group of people that don't understand bluffing games or aren't into a bluffing game, they won't be at the same level as you, so to speak. So what's going to happen is you're going to get these people that are just kind of and they're not having fun of it. Now, you can go over the top, like we have done sometimes, and you could do all kinds of wild bluffs, like, if you let me pass, I'll give you a kiss, or I've used things like, well, you know, I'll do a load of dishes for you instead of you doing a load of dishes in the kitchen. You know, and things like that. So you can do all sorts of things. There's really, and that's what makes the game so good, is the rules are really pretty much just a guideline, and there's no framework to how wide that basis can go. It's established by the norms of the players playing the game. I enjoy it. I have enjoyed it every time I've played it, which now probably about 15 or 20 times. So I will I will have you guys look forward to see us actually doing a playthrough, because this is, again, one of those games that I can show you the mechanics, but you don't capture the fun element that is in the game by me showing you the mechanics of how to play the game. So thanks for watching. It's been a game review with Matt Lemke from Through Gamer Goggles, gamer-goggles.com. Please subscribe to us. The more subscribers we have, the higher we get ranked and all that stuff, you know, all those weird analytic things. But anyway, by subscribing to us, you're effectively giving us more power, and you make me feel good, because then I want to keep doing these things for you. And this is a service that I believe is a great service to the community. So anyway, thanks for watching, and have a good day.